Good.
What's up, gang? We are live. Andrew Cooper. Maybe I don't even see myself on the screen here. Am I up here? Test. Is this thing working? You guys see me out there? Either way, what's happening? Andrew Cooper here, aka Coop Fiasco on Twitter. This is Coop's Fantasy Football Fiasco, sponsored by FFPC. We're over here on the Better Network. I work at Fantasy Alarm, and here we're going to break down all the usage from Week 10 so that you can be all set and good to go for the rest of your season here. Before we get to that, just want to say something real quick to all the folks out there. I don't care if you're 0-10. I do not care if you're 0-10, if you have no wins, if you have no chance of making the playoffs. Have some pride. Have some pride and keep on playing. Keep on trucking, man, because there's a huge difference, in my opinion, from the loser team that comes in dead last to the loser team that comes in dead last because they completely gave up. It's disrespectful to yourself. It's disrespectful to your league mates, to be completely honest. For you to just put garbage out there and not set your lineup and not care, you're changing the landscape of the league. If you let another team win with your trash team that shouldn't have beat you and they make the playoffs over a team that deserved it, then you're an even bigger loser than you would have been just coming in last place trying. So have some pride, folks, man. Let's go. Let's get fired up. And I look around at my teams, and I got some teams that probably aren't going to make the playoffs, but I'm going to keep trying because I care about my overall record. I care about this stuff deeply. I care about my image, and I care about putting the best league possible together where the outcome isn't affected by people that are just taking their ball and going home. So that's the deal. And I'll tell you what else. Is there's guys out there that can change the landscape here, that can win leagues for people. Shout out to folks in the chat, Joe Calden, Skinny, everybody hanging out. I know the people that hang out and watch this show live, especially the Fantasy Alarm members, they're not tanking. But this goes out to everybody out there that might just be catching one of these episodes for the first time. We're passionate about this stuff. And I'll tell you what, there are guys out there that could win leagues that haven't even started playing at a high level yet. You look at Amon-Ra St. Brown as a rookie through week 10, which is where we are right now, he was unstartable in fantasy football. And for the final 7 weeks, megastar. Stud. I didn't believe in him. I thought he would go right back in the bottle. Never went back in the bottle. Never stopped being a star. From this moment right now in the season on, he turned into a megastar and he never stopped being that megastar. Those guys are out there. I don't know if it's Keaton Mitchell. I don't know if it's Noah Brown. I don't know if it's Trey McBride. It could be a player whose name we've never said on this show before. Even though we go through every single team and look at every single player and their usage and everything, it could be a player that we have not even mentioned yet that's going to come out and be a super megastar. So what we do on the show is we're going to go team by team, as always, in order by city, and just hit on the important metrics so that we can identify these guys, know who the next man up is, know who's coming up, know who's going down, and so that we can keep winning, whether it's for pride, whether it's to make the playoffs, whether you're already in the playoffs and you just are setting yourself up for complete dominance. We're going to be on top of it. It starts right now. So let's get into it. Also, today, folks, you got to be on top of me in the chat. I see you, Skinny. I see you, Toronto Dave. Coming back for good reason. This show is only going to be an hour. We can't go over because coming back next week is Brit's Blitz on Mondays. Yes, Brit is back to 2 days a week, Monday and Friday. So we've been going over the last few weeks, getting a little crazy, taking advantage of the time slot. Now we got to keep it to an hour. I ain't tight. Adam Bernard's going to help me with that. You guys help me with that too. So let's get into it. And I'll tell you what, right now, from the standpoint of, okay, we might have some people coming out, some players coming out that are going to pop off and potentially change the entire landscape. Look no further than the first team we're going to talk about, the Arizona Cardinals. My goodness, Kyler Murray is back. I know that he didn't light up the box score, but I'll tell you what, if you watch that game, he looked like Kyler Murray, scurrying around, making crazy plays. In fact, he made a play at the end of the game with his legs on 3rd and 10 where he did his thing, turned completely around, ran all the way around, ended up gaining a bunch of yards, getting themselves in field goal position, winning the game. And he also had a rushing touchdown. This guy is very much back. And I'll tell you what, I've said it multiple times leading up to this moment, that when you sort all the players all time and you sort quarterbacks by points per game through the history of this league, Kyler Murray is top 5. He's 4. He is 4. Like, this guy is a baller when healthy for fantasy football. Say what you will about his attitude, everything else. So Kyler Murray is back. And guess what? Kyler Murray likes Trey McBride, which we like that, right? Trey McBride was a focal point of the offense with Joshua Dobbs, got 14 targets last time. This week, Trey McBride comes out, plays a massive snap share, gets a ton of targets, absolute star, first 100-yard game for the fella. So Trey McBride, we were a little worried that maybe Kyler wouldn't like throwing to him. Turns out that Trey McBride might be even better now. So Trey McBride locked in. If you waited and went yin and yang tight end with us and found Dalton Kincaid or Sam Laporta or Trey McBride, you got to be feeling pretty good about it right now. So let's rock and roll, baby. Also back, changing the landscape, James Conner. And guess what? Took his full job back. 41 snaps for him, only 14 for Keontae Ingram, only 7 for Tony Jones Jr. James Conner got more snaps in all phases, rundowns, pass downs, you name it. James Conner locked and loaded. And honestly, my opinion on this whole situation is that, I know James Conner's getting up there a little bit. He's got injury issues, but people were saying that, this team's going to be overhauling everything. They're going to be getting rid of all these pieces. Maybe Zach Ertz might not be back with Trey McBride there, but I look at Kyler Murray and I say, hey, why would you draft a quarterback? You got a quarterback. I look at James Conner and say, hey, you know what? Maybe you supplement that, but these are good players. Trey McBride's a good player. Marquise Brown's a good player. I like Michael Wilson the way he looks. Rondale Moore is a gadget player. This team, as far as weapons go, they're looking all right, man. So, heck yeah, let's do it, man. Shout out to Rushman. Greetings, brother. Shout out to Toronto Dave. Thanks for hanging with us, guys. But yeah, so just to wrap this up, Marquise Brown played a full snap share. Michael Wilson did as well. And then Rondale Moore did his typical thing. He doesn't play every single snap because he doesn't play in 2 wide receiver sets, but he plays plenty of slot and usually gets a couple carries. Didn't this week, but mixes those in. So all those guys are looking interesting right now, at least in DFS. And Kyler Murray and Marquise Brown and James Conner and Trey McBride in your redraft leagues are in there. So let's go. Go over to Atlanta, the team that they beat this week. As far as wide receivers go, this is easy now. Drake London's back, so don't worry about anyone else because Drake London played 55 snaps. The next highest was Kadarius Hodge at 29, and he only ran 9 routes. They basically just used a ton of 2 tight end sets. It's Kyle Pitts, it's Jonnu Smith, it's Drake London. Don't worry about the wide receivers. Nice and easy. Now, Kyle Pitts ran 20 routes, which tied Drake London. One little piece of nitpicking here, and I really don't understand why they're doing this, but Kyle Pitts blocked on 5 pass plays, which you might say to yourself, you know what, that's not that big deal. But it was 5 of his 25 pass plays. They only had 27 total pass plays. He was out there for 25 of them, and he blocked on 5. That's 20%. Anything over 15% is nightmare, right? So he should have, if he's out there for 25 pass plays, run 25 routes of 27. Instead, he runs 20 of 27. That's not good, man. I really don't understand why they would use this player like that, but I don't understand anything Arthur Smith does. So what are you going to do? Mile High Luke, shout out, brother. Happy Monday, man. This is where we go through. We dig through the rubble. We get sorted out. We get the waivers tomorrow. Start having fun with Howard Bender and lightning round and quick outs and all that fun stuff. Today, though, this is fun for me. I like this stuff, man. I like this nerdy stuff, and I'm glad you guys are hanging out with me so we can break this down. Bijan came out, 22 routes, 22 carries. Alexa, play Jay-Z 22 twos, baby, because he came out and actually played a full amount of work that we like to see, right? Tyler Algier played 19 snaps. He played 53. So Bijan got the workload we were all hoping he would, and it looked pretty good. But Tyler Algier still quietly, he played only 19 snaps, still got 9 carries. So when he goes in the game, he goes in the game specifically to get the rock. That seems to be the case. George, sell high on Kenneth Walker. I see your question in the chat. Usually we get to those when we get to the teams, but I'll tell you what, Kenneth Walker is probably the exact example of a guy I would sell high. So make sure you stay tuned for that segment. We'll talk about him. We'll talk about Charbonnet. We'll talk about everybody else. Yeah, there you go, Britt. Play Taylor Swift 22. Either one, whatever one you want on that one. But yeah, so we'll talk about him when we get to the Seahawks. We're going alphabetical order by city. So we did Arizona. We did Atlanta. We're 10 minutes in, so not on pace to get this done. You guys are supposed to be on top of me with that stuff, but we're going to do our best. Baltimore Ravens, next team. Ravens come out, and they have a 3-man split. We want to see more Keaton Mitchell. He looked good in the beginning. He looked explosive. After combing through the numbers and seeing what they did, this is what it's going to look like. Keaton Mitchell, honestly, is now in the J.K. Dobbins role, in my opinion, where when they want to get a guy in space, they want explosiveness, they want that kind of player, that's where he's going to play. I think he's eventually going to end up starting the way J.K. Dobbins would. I think he's going to break off big plays. He had another big touchdown this week, and he almost caught, he had a 32-yard reception as well, had a target in the end zone that beautifully thrown ball, just a very difficult adjustment. Almost came down with that too. So I think he's going to be the explosive player. Gus Edwards is still going to be your goal line player. He's 238 pounds. The dude is an absolute truck. You're still going to use him in the goal line. That's what they did as well. And for now, Keaton Mitchell, as a younger player, probably not ready to do the 2-minute drill. You have to know every single play. You have to know every single audible. You have to know all the pass blocking schemes. I just don't know if he's ready for that. Justice Hill got a lot of the third down work, and he got the couple snaps in 2-minute drill. So it's probably still going to be a three-way split to some degree. Keaton Mitchell being the most fun to watch and the best bet for like DFS and best ball and explosive plays. Gus Edwards in standard, he's probably still in the realm that you would put like an Tyler Algier or a Zeke Elliott, where if there's a pass interference in the end zone, it's either going to be him or Lamar Jackson punching it in. That's the deal. Mark Andrews, you don't need to think about. He's awesome. Zay Flowers led all wide receivers in snaps again. A little bit of a change, though. Rashad Bateman came in and played the most in 2 wide receiver sets, ran 23 routes, which was more than Nelson Aguilar, who ran 16, much more than Odell, who ran 12. I know Odell got the revenge game, touchdown, whatever. But Rashad Bateman kind of trending in the right direction in deeper leagues. Might want to go and kind of stash him on the bench because second in routes, second in targets, ran 23 to 26 for Flowers. This is like the first time all year that's happened where it's even been close at all. So Rashad Bateman may be trending up at the right time. Keep an eye out for him. Again, hard to trust right now, but we want those guys trending up versus down. Like an example would be Mac Hollins earlier this year was playing a ton of snaps. Since then, he's trended all the way down to the point where he wasn't even like active this week. So we want guys on the way up versus way down. Bateman might be on the way up. So keep an eye on that. Next team, Buffalo Bills, play tonight. So nothing on that there. No concern that Mitchell only got 5 touches or whatever, while Edwards got 2. Yeah. That is a concern, Jared Moore. 100% see you in the chat on that. So definitely be careful with that. But again, Mitchell, he's going to get the more explosive looks, but you just got to know that that Keaton Mitchell needs to score from 10, 15 yards out, probably just like Alvin Kamara does, right? Or just like, now Jahmyr Gibbs probably does. So that's the case. And shout out Joe Carlton in the chat. Adam Bernard, if you could pull up that comment, appreciate you having my back so that we can keep things quick here. Promo code Coop on myffpc.com. Deposit 35 or more, you'll get 25 free. Pull up the QR code for that. There you go. I appreciate you taking the chat. Knows we're on a time crunch, so they're taking care of the ads for us, dude. Appreciate you, Joe. You're the man, dude. Yeah, so that's the deal. Buffalo Bills played tonight. Carolina Panthers played on Thursday. No DJ Chark, so it was Thielen, Mingo, and Terrace Marshall. When Chark comes back, just know that Terrace Marshall is the one that's kind of the odd man out that's going to split snaps with him. Thielen and Mingo will keep their snaps. So Thielen's the guy you start. Mingo may be a stash. Hayden Hurst and Tommy Tremble split with no Steven Sullivan. Didn't matter. When Steven Sullivan plays, it's a 3-way split, so not really interested in those guys. Chuba Hubbard, 30 snaps, 23 for Miles Sanders. So we saw at the very end of the game, Miles Sanders is the 2-minute drill back, it seems. He went out and caught a couple passes at the very end of the game. It's not enough to start, right? But it does dig into Chuba a little bit, makes both of them kind of inconsistent. We wanted one guy to get all the work. We were rooting for Miles Sanders. He kind of ended up in the doghouse, Deuce Staley's doghouse, which is a tough place to be. DeAndre Swift lived there for a while, but that doesn't mean Miles Sanders is just done. He could potentially bounce back, but for now, difficult to start either guy. Chuba is still the better start because he's getting the carries. He's getting the start. But Miles Sanders clearly going to mix in on some pass plays. Ran 19 routes to 13 for Chuba. Bears, 72 snaps. DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney, only wide receivers that play the whole game. Only wide receivers you can trust. Equanimeous St. Brown came back, but he split with Tyler Scott. So, who really cares? Cole Kmet, his usage is good in most games, but you have to be very careful with this particular player because every once in a while, they'll have him stay in and block on pass plays. That is a killer, man. That is a killer for otherwise healthy tight ends. As we mentioned with Kyle Pitts, even 20%, that's going to knock 5 pass plays off, 5 routes they could have run. That's another 1 or 2 targets, man. Cole Kmet against the Raiders, last time he did down game, blocked on 8 pass plays to help with Max Crosby. Terrible game. This week, blocked on 8 pass plays. That's 22%. Anything over 15% is in the red area. Anything over 10 is yellow. Anything under that, I don't care about. Obviously, we want it to be 0. Like some of these guys, Travis Kelce doesn't block on pass plays. You know what I mean? Unless it's a designed screen or something. So Cole Kmet blocking on 8 pass plays, that's scary. Running backs, Donta Foreman on rundowns, Roshan on pass downs. We'll have to see what happens with Khalil Herbert back. But until then, that's the assumption that Foreman's going to get the run work. Roshan's going to get the pass work. We'll see where Khalil mixes in. But I could see Khalil Herbert taking his job back. I mean, he earned the job in the first place. So who knows? When Khalil Herbert was healthy, Donta Foreman, they weren't even dressing him for the games. So it could potentially happen that way where it goes back to being the case. We'll have to keep an eye on it. We'll let you know this week. Cincinnati Bengals, 64 snaps total. Again, for those just joining us or those that might have forgot, 65 is right around NFL average where it's been the last few years. So if a team plays like 80 snaps or 90, that's usually like an overtime game. We got to account for that. Like those stats aren't realistic to keep continuing. If they play like 40 or 50, that's well below. And we're going to let you know. 64 for the Bengals, right down the middle. So you can feel pretty good about this being a normal game script to some degree for this team. T. Higgins out, Trent Irwin in. Scored a touchdown. That's his job. The roles didn't change for Chase or Boyd. Chase is the flanker. Boyd plays the slot. Doesn't change. So Boyd, the targets change, but not the roles. So Boyd got a bunch of targets, had a good game until the very end when he dropped that touchdown in the end zone, which was just brutal, right? Third down, game on the line. That hurts. Kind of sullied an otherwise impressive game. Jamar Chase, he's hopefully only to get more and more healthy with the back issue, so he'll be back up and running. But yeah, T. Higgins, we got to keep an eye out for that. Whenever T. Higgins is out, Trenton Irwin, potential DFS play. So we were using him, scored a touchdown, got lucky there. He's not going to – in week 5, he got 10 targets. So, I mean, I can't even say he's not ever going to get peppered in targets when T. Higgins is out. It could happen. Joe Mixon played the full snaps as usual, ran pretty hard. Again, I don't care if he's inefficient. The guy plays every snap. You get him in your lineup. Simple as that. Don't worry about it. Cleveland Browns, 78 snaps. Cedric Tillman, we talked about it last week. Cedric Tillman's in the DPJ role. I just hope that when they went to tell him, they say, oh, you're going to play the DPJ role, that he didn't turn around and think that they wanted him to play like DPJ, because that's what he did this week. He came out, ran a ton of routes. He ran, 40 routes, which was more than Elijah Moore, caught 0 passes on, call it 2 targets, call it 3 targets. Doesn't really matter. He didn't catch anyone. So he's going to be out there running around. Who knows if it's going to be anything that's super efficient, but honestly, I don't care. If he's running out a ton of routes and not getting the football, great. I love that. Like, good. Run around, hang out, and let's just focus all the targets on Amari Cooper and David Njoku and Elijah Moore. So good. David Njoku came out, 9 targets. Didn't really do anything with him, but he didn't block on a lot of pass plays. He ran a lot of routes, so we got to feel good about that. Elijah Moore, he's good for a couple targets, potentially a carry. So Elijah Moore, you could do a lot worse. And then running-wise, same as it was last week. Jerome Ford leads in all phases. He's the preferred back, except in the red area for some odd reason. Kareem Hunt, who used to be his pass-catching back, they like him in the red area. So, Ford got more carries, ran more routes, and then Kareem Hunt got the touchdown. That's kind of the one knock on Ford, but Ford is still the much more trustworthy player, right? CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, Jake Ferguson, all scored this week. Dallas Cowboys, man, what an absolute wagon of a week for this team. I mean, it wasn't a real football game, so it's hard to, celebrate too hard. But I mean, it's not like Tommy DeVito was out there letting them score a million touchdowns, right? It's like the defense also to blame to some degree on this one. So those guys all scored touchdowns. Dak, Lamb, Rico Dowdle all scored rushing touchdowns. The only guy who didn't get to party at all was Tony Pollard. Just classic, man. And he's still a guy that I'm looking to buy low. I worried out loud on Twitter if maybe the recovery from this ankle injury, he had tightrope surgery. Him and Darnell Mooney both had the same surgery. It's supposed to be new special surgery that it's only been done like 5, 6, 7 years or so. Tua had it. Jalen Hurts had it. They, played fine. But it does seem like a fairly invasive surgery, and I wonder if not everybody responds the same way because he doesn't look particularly great. I'd rather have Mixon if I'm buying low on guys, but still, Tony Pollard played a ton of snaps, just couldn't score at the goal line. On first drive of the game, 4th and 1, couldn't get it done. So what are you going to do? Real quick, since we're talking about this game, we started CeeDee Lamb in our FFPC lineup. We made our team last week. It was me and Theo Greminger from Player Profiler, the OG Fiasco team. Let's take a quick look real quick at how that team did. CeeDee Lamb went crazy. I actually haven't even looked, so I'm just pulling it up right now. So CeeDee Lamb went crazy. That's pretty nice. Let's see. Here's us versus the top team. Oh, we're getting smoked. Our quarterback hasn't played, but I don't know if Josh Allen's going to get like 70 points here. So I think we're in big trouble. He started CJ Stroud. We both started Christian McCaffrey. He started Alvin Kamara, which outscored our Aaron Jones. That's the thing is like, you got to get it like just right. Tank Dell was a good start for us. That was a good call by Theo. 20 points there. Sam Laporta hurt us. And this guy started Trey McBride. What a dude, huh? 25 versus 10. That can make all the difference. The other one is the rule here is you can only start I love this rule. You can only start one player from each team. So we sat there and said, do we start Eckler or Keenan Allen? Looks like Keenan Allen dominated. I mean, he had an amazing game, doubled the points for Austin Eckler. And unfortunately, at the flex, we could have started him. We just made that call. Turned out to be wrong. What are you going to do? Joe Mixon just did okay. Again, Mixon versus Chase. This guy made the right call. We made the wrong call there. Olave had a decent game. Deontay Johnson let us all down, which is brutal. And we've had a hard time picking the right defense. Should have just played the chalk with the Browns, man. That was probably the play because, did we even start a Brown? That should have been such an easy play. Yeah, we didn't even start a Brown, so we could have just started them. Browns versus Baltimore, that's actually not even that good of a move. I don't know why. The chalk was whoever was playing the Cowboys defense was the chalk, but we needed CeeDee Lamb did much better. So, yeah, I don't know what the thought process was there on the Browns besides the fact that the Browns are good, but this guy did well. If you want to play this, go to myffpc.com, use promo code Coop. They'll give you $25 when you deposit 35 or more. It supports me. It supports the show, and it's a lot of fun. So I do these for free. These videos help you guys out. If you want to support me, support the show, go over there, use the promo code, make a little lineup. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't got to play, you put $1 million in and play all the time and do all this. So you know what? Try it out 1 week, see if you like it, see if you can beat me, make some money, and it supports me, it supports the show. So appreciate you guys. myffpc.com. Use promo code Coop. First time depositors deposit $35 or more. They'll give you $25. I suggest deposit $45, right? Because if you deposit $45, they give you $25. That goes to $70. And then, then the buy-ins for these are $35. So you get in two. So go check that out, man. See, I took myself off the screen instead of that thing. Yeah, let's keep me up and let's put that away. So yeah, that's the deal. And yeah, for it's like hard to judge these games if it's not a real game. So what are you going to do? I mean, we'll just move on to the next team. The Giants are looking brutal. We'll talk about them. Next team, Denver Broncos play tonight. We got nothing on them yet. Detroit Lions, 66 snaps. Amon-Ra St. Brown led with 61. Next was Josh Reynolds with 46. And Jameis Williams only played 34 or 66. So just can't trust that guy. Can't trust that guy. Khalif Raymond got 4 targets, but only played 17 snaps. Can't trust him either. Honestly, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown or Reynolds. That's it right now, unless something drastically changes for Jameson Williams. And they also traded for Donovan Peoples-Jones. Maybe he's not a rocket scientist like Josh Dobbs, who hasn't learned the playbook in full yet. So he hasn't been active yet, but soon enough, we will see him, right? Sam Laporta, his usage, everything was fine, just didn't have a great game. That's going to happen sometimes, man. Tough loss in what should have been a good matchup, but I mean, he still did fine. You still start Sam Laporta every week. Just, nothing crazy about his usage either that was throwing us off. Just 1 pass block snap. So he's going to be just fine. And then Gibbs and Monty, I'm telling you right now, this split, we talked about this offseason, that this could be a setup like the Atlanta Falcons, the New Orleans Saints in 2017, where the debate was, Mark Ingram or Alvin Kamara. And at the end of the day, it didn't matter because Mark Ingram was the starter. He was getting the goal line work. He scored 12 touchdowns. But Alvin Kamara was so good, he was so explosive, and the offensive line was so good, and the offense in general was so good that Alvin Kamara scored 13 touchdowns. And they were both RB1s in fantasy football. And who the hell cares? So if you got them, you start them. If I got David Montgomery, I'm starting him. If I have Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm starting him. And I'll tell you guys what, on this channel, this offseason, we were commentating on some high stakes drafts. Like I commentated a whole one that was a $10,000 buy-in draft. Yeah. And when that draft was going on, one of the teams that put $10,000 down to draft their team, they drafted their first running back off the board was Jahmyr Gibbs. And their second running back off the board was David Montgomery. And I said, this guy's going to put 10 grand that the Lions rushing game is so good that these guys can both be starters every week. Guess what, dude? That guy is a genius. And his team is probably looking pretty decent, assuming he's been able to scrape by with Monty out. But I'd be feeling pretty good about that right now. So that's the deal here, man. Gibbs, Monty, argue left and right and back and forth over who deserves this and who deserves that. I think both guys deserve to play. I think this team should just run the ball all the time, throw the ball to the running backs all the time, just score a bunch of points and win a bunch of games. So, yeah, feeling pretty good about both those guys. Green Bay Packers, 68 total snaps. Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed. That's the deal. Doubs and Watson on the outside, which makes Reed the third fiddle. So when you look at the snaps, 56 for Doubs, 51 for Watson, only 35 for Reed. He comes out for the 2 tight end sets. And Luke Musgrave played 50 snaps. Tucker Kraft played 35. So if you're wondering where the Jaden Reed snaps have gone to, that's where. Not to mention, when you add up Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon's snaps, 38 for Jones, 34 for Dillon, that gives you a total of 72. There was only 68 offensive plays. So if so facto, when you have an extra running back in the game, somebody comes out, Jaden Reed's the guy that comes out. So Reed, he's still an interesting player. He's still a good player, kind of in the same spot as Josh Downs, where he doesn't play the whole game, but he still gets some usage. So, you can still add him. Just know that there's a level of upside that would only come from an injury to probably Romeo Doubs. So if Romeo Doubs goes down, it's wheels up for Jaden Reed. If Christian Watson goes down, what they do is they put Dontavian Wicks in that role. It doesn't really help Reed that much. A Doubs injury is what would unlock Jaden Reed. That's the deal. Luke Musgrave played plenty of snaps. He ran 31 routes, which is more than Jaden Reed's 24. It's thin now. It's thin over there all of a sudden. So hard to trust Luke Musgrave the way we were early in the year. Aaron Jones, he got the crazy workload last week. This week, a little tempered. We saw a little more A.J. Dillon in short yardage, but Jones still got more carries, ran more routes. I'm going to start Aaron Jones every week where I got him. Simple as that. He's Aaron Jones. As long as he's Aaron Jones, we're going to start him. So Houston Texans, 75 snaps. Robert Woods is back, but that didn't affect the Noah Brown show because Nico Collins was out. So we still have we need some answers here. We need some answers in the form of Nico Collins and Robert Woods being healthy at the same time, and Tank Dell, because Tank Dell missed games earlier. We haven't really seen too many games where everyone's healthy. I want to see how it shakes out. Tank Dell played 72 snaps of 75. So Tank Dell locked in. Got to be feeling good about that. Noah Brown played 56 of 75. Robert Woods played 45 of 75. John Mechie hardly played. He hasn't really all season. When Nico Collins gets back, he's the split end. He plays a different role than everyone else. He's bigger than everybody else. So he's going to play a fairly full snap share. I think Tank Dell will also maintain a pretty good snap share based on his usage. He ran 40 of 41 routes this week. Noah Brown was second with 33, and Robert Woods only ran 26. So it's going to be Noah Brown versus Robert Woods. I would like to see less Robert Woods if possible, but I don't dictate that. So just know that Noah Brown is not fully wheels up the way it is. Tank Dell feels pretty safe and locked in. He got 14 targets. So, and man, CJ Stroud's been cool, right? He's been awesome. What a guy. Got to be pumped if you're a Texans fan right now. No question. Colby Conway's probably all fired up about it. So, yeah, pretty good. Dalton Schultz continues to be pretty consistent. Second most routes run. He did block on 6 pass plays. So they threw a ton, 43 times, or 43 dropbacks. So 6 pass plays isn't that big a deal, but still 15%, which is, right at the line where we do not want to live. I got a whole article on that. If you go type in what makes an elite tight end, Andrew Cooper, whatever, into the Google machine, Fantasy Alarm, that'll come up. And I'll explain exactly why that's a problem. Can't really do it right now because we still have more than half the teams left and we're halfway through the show. Devin Singletary, told you guys to use him in DFS because I'm a genius. And last week he had a bad game because it was a bad matchup. This week he played 61 snaps of 75, had 150 yards rushing because you can run on the Bengals. So when Dameon Pierce is out and it's a good matchup, use Singletary. But if it's a bad matchup, you got to double check and see if he's going to be the guy. I mean, let's just take a quick peek at the schedule and see how many good matchups and bad matchups we have. Next week against the Arizona Cardinals, if Dameon Pierce is out, I'm starting Devin Singletary. After that, he gets the Jaguars, which is not a good matchup for running, but it's a good matchup for catching passes. He's got the Jets on the schedule. He's got the Titans. He's got the Browns. He's got the Titans again. So actually, there are not very many good matchups. Devin Singletary, if somebody would be willing to buy him, I doubt they would, then go ahead and trade him off there. Nino Pena, I see in the chat, my dude. With the Falcons Bijan situation, we actually talked about that one already. We go in alphabetical order by city name. And after the show, we're going to have timestamps in there. So hang out with us and we'll finish this up. And then you can click that timestamp and go back and just listen to the Falcons one. Usually a couple quick minutes on each team is what we're trying to do here. I got to be quicker about it. Indianapolis Colts, 57 snaps, so a little bit below average, not too crazy. Pittman and Pierce played the whole game. That's what they do. And Josh Downs is banged up. So he split with Isaiah McKenzie. Only 14 snaps for Downs, 26 for McKenzie. When Downs is healthy, we like him. Otherwise, hard to trust. So, but right, Alec Pierce is all exercise team super captain. 55 of 57 snaps, 1 target. This dude has been doing this every single week. They just don't have anybody else, but they just don't throw it to him. I mean, he's just out there running around doing nothing. At tight end, Kylan Granson led with 15 routes, but not a good blocker. So Mo Alley Cox actually played more snaps. At this point, don't worry about these guys. Not even really good DFS dart throws, to be honest. Will Mallory got the most targets with 2, and he played 9 snaps and ran 5 routes. It's basically Jelani Woods or nothing. And I don't know if Jelani Woods is even going to play this year. So if you can stash Jelani in an IR spot, go for it. Otherwise, don't worry about these guys. And Jonathan Taylor front, good news for him. 50 of 57 snaps for him, only 9 for Zach Moss. So Jonathan Taylor is fully back on the menu. He's being paid a lot of money. So good for him out there earning that money. Jacksonville Jaguars, 57 snaps total this week. Again, a little bit below average. Nothing to really discount any performances for, though. Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley play the whole game. Nobody else really plays much. Tim Jones, a distant third. Jamal Williams left the game with an injury. Honestly, it's Zay Jones when he gets back. He'll probably go back to playing a full snap share when he's healthy, if and when, but don't worry about any of these other players. Nothing you need to worry about. Evan Ingram, 36 of 39 routes, 6 targets. That's all we need. All we need in this world is 6 targets. 6 targets a game, 6.25, whatever it is, 6 or 7. That gets us to 100-plus targets in the season. That's all that matters at tight end at the end of the day. If we can get those targets, then we can live our lives. So Evan Ingram, maybe not the best game, but oh well, right? Got the targets, get in, get out. He ran the routes. We're good. When Zay Jones is back, maybe that'll have an effect, and we'll address it then. But for the time being, Evan Ingram, just throw him in there. Travis Etienne led, but not really the dominant snap performance that we've seen from him. He usually gets a crazy amount of snaps, but this week, he got 35 of 57. They used Dearness Johnson for 12, Tank Bigsby for 10. So it's not like it's like a split with somebody. They just mixed in other guys, and I don't know. I don't love that. I would love to see Travis Etienne go back to just getting every single snap, but what are you going to do? Kansas City Chiefs are on bye this week. Las Vegas Raiders, 64 snaps. Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, top dogs, 62 and 58 snaps, full usage. So that's good. Hunter Renfrow is next with 27. So Hunter Renfrow doesn't matter. Jacoby Myers only got 2 targets, though. So starting to wonder if maybe Josh McDaniels liked his guy Jacoby, and this new group doesn't really have loyalty to Jacoby. They definitely didn't to Jimmy Garoppolo, so I don't know. And the interim coach Pierce basically said, they asked him about throwing to Devontae Adams, who got 10 targets. He said, "I know who to throw it to." So sounds like Devontae Adams has targets on the menu moving forward, and we're gonna like that. Michael Mayer, he's a starter now. Played 56 of 64 snaps, only ran 22 of 32 routes, though. Scored the touchdown, but his usage is just not good enough to really trust, to be honest. He's going to be a middle of the pack tight end, too, for the most part for me. So just can't really trust the usage on Michael Mayer. It's a shame. He'll have a win in his career. I think there's going to be a window to open at some point where he could potentially be a focal point. But right now, with Adams and Myers and Josh Jacobs, it's hard for him to be like the top fiddle as a rookie in a situation like that. In other spots, it's possible. And on this team, it's kind of tough. Josh Jacobs ran, 53 snaps for him of 64. So Jacobs is dialed in. Los Angeles Chargers, 72 snaps, so a little bit above average, but again, nothing crazy. Keenan Allen, absolute monster, 15 targets, super mega star. Got to be pumped about him. Quentin Johnston and Jalen Guyton also both played the whole game because Gerald Everett got hurt. So Gerald Everett got hurt, and they basically just went 3 wide receivers for the most part. So QJ, Guyton, Keenan Allen all played a ton of snaps. They both all ran 35 or more routes out of 41. So, I mean, I like QJ, but Guyton's out there as like a DFS dart throw. Obviously, Keenan Allen's in your lineup every single week. He's like the wide receiver 1 overall. He's amazing. And he's always been amazing. And he's a Hall of Famer. Donald Parham and Stone Smart, our guy Stone Smart, one of our favorites. 3 targets, didn't catch any of them. But that's more targets than Donald Parham got. So that's some. Stone Smart, when he's going to score a touchdown at some point, we're going to victory lap. He's not really a guy, like he's a guy where people ask me who's the deepest tight end you roster in your deepest league. That's the name, Stone Cold Smart. But yeah, you can't trust that guy. Can't really trust Donald Parham either, though, because they split when Gerald Everett's out. So I don't know what the extent of the injury to Everett is, but even if they're out, I'm not going to start Parham or Smart in any real leagues, maybe DFS. Austin Eckler, more work in all phases than Josh Kelly. We know the deal there. It's Eckler's show. Kelly is just to spell him or play if he gets hurt. Los Angeles Rams, bye week. Next team in alphabetical order, Miami Dolphins, bye week. Next team, Minnesota Vikings, 73 snaps. TJ Hawkinson, absolute soldier, legendary performance this week. Ed Werder came out. People are dogging Ed Werder for his reporting when they shouldn't, because TJ Hawkinson was hurt. Clear. If you watch that game, this guy was hurt, dude. He wasn't injured though, so he played, but he was hurt, dude. Every time he got hit, he was looking like Rocky there, just like rolling around on the ground, fighting to get back up. But he got back up every single time. Even went to the tent briefly, came out, played. So don't dog Ed Werder for saying this guy could miss some snaps. Will probably only play the important snaps because all the snaps were important. He played them all. He played through it all, crazy pain, and had an amazing game. And that's not the reporter's fault because the guy was hurt. Like, there's no way to watch the highlights from that game or watch that game and think that guy was not hurt. We didn't move him that far down in the rankings. I think we moved him like tight end. He was still like 10 and 7 because, you're not going to start all these other guys that block and aren't good over him. So we didn't move him very far, but we had to account for the fact that he could potentially not play. So 46% target share, as Britt Flynn points out in the chat. Yeah, we'll take that. So Hawkinson, we learned a lesson that he better be dead if you're going to take him out of your lineup, because if he's even half alive like he was this week, he's a monster. So we also saw no shout out Albert. What's up, brother? Thanks for popping in, man. Yeah, we saw no KJ Osborne this week. Justin Jefferson obviously is not ready to be back yet. We thought that Tristan Jackson, a name that's very difficult for me to say, would potentially take some snaps, but Jalen Naylor returned. So it was actually Jalen Naylor, Brandon Powell, and Jordan Addison that played the snaps here. It was 71 for Addison, 67 for Naylor. So Naylor actually operated ahead of Powell. Even though Powell got more targets, Naylor ran 39 routes, Powell ran 32. So just keep that in the back of your mind. When Jefferson gets back, it's going to be Jefferson and Addison, and then who cares? And KJ Osborne will probably be back soon. So like Naylor, Powell, they're not really guys you're adding, but maybe DFS dart chucks, right? Depending. We'll see. We talked about Hawkinson. Alexander Madison left with a concussion, so Ty Chandler took over that job. And I'll tell you what, I've mismanaged one of my teams in a very difficult league, the Fantasy Alarm Family League, to the point where I had to start Ty Chandler this week against James Grande. And of course, Ty Chandler scores a touchdown, and I'm probably going to win. So shout out Ty Chandler for being available on the waiver wire when I literally had to add a running back off the wire and put them directly into my lineup. Ty Chandler, you're my boy, dog. But yeah, keep an eye on Madison. If Madison misses the game with a concussion this week, then Ty Chandler, you could do a lot worse. And they also have Kene Nwangwu, who is more of a return man. He's a great return man, in fact. They missed him for a good chunk of the season, but he's not really going to probably carve out too much of a role. Again, maybe some sort of DFS play because the guy is a home run hitter, returned multiple kicks. He's an all-pro kick returner, but it's Chandler if Madison's out. Patriots, 69 snaps. Mac Jones was yelled at and benched again. If he gets benched 8 or 9 more times, then you got to start thinking that maybe Mac Jones isn't the guy, right? How many times have he been benched this year already? 4? Like, time to just throw whoever else in there and lose as many games as possible and get Drake May or Caleb Williams or JJ McCarthy or, the guy Penix. I'm not even entirely sure how to say his name. I don't really care. Just get somebody else in. It's over. Juju Smith-Schuster led in snaps this week, was the big departure from normal. 68 snaps of 69 for Juju. They just said, you're playing the whole game. And guess what? He played the entire game, and he got one target. So who cares? Demario Douglas, obviously the most exciting and most fun player on this team. Pop Douglas. That's our boy. He's the only guy you can really care about of the wide receivers. Kayshon Boutte got a chance as, the fifth-round rookie, and he did okay. He didn't really even play that much, to be honest. So Pop Douglas is the guy you want. Hunter Henry played 27 of 34 routes, played 50 of 69 snaps. Hen dog, he's again, middle of the pack guy. You need a touchdown out of him for him to be anything. So hard to trust him weekly basis. Mike Gesicki only ran 20 of 34 routes. So Ramondre Stevenson would have played the vast majority of the game, but he kind of hurt. He got hurt his back a little bit, missed an entire drive, but he still played 46 snaps to 23 for Zeke. We know the deal there. Zeke just kind of like a goal line guy. That's about it. New Orleans Saints, 67 total snaps. Derek Carr got hurt. Jameson Winston came in, a little huck it, chuck it football. Let's go, dude. So he came in just throwing picks and throwing the ball all over the place, which we love to see. Michael Thomas also got hurt. He played 2 snaps and then left the game, and A.T. Perry stepped in, big dog on the outside, and he looks pretty good. He scored a touchdown. So we found the answer to what happens when Michael Thomas doesn't play is that A.T. Perry leads the team in snaps the way Michael Thomas does at times. And Chris Olave plays his full snap share, and Rashid Shaheed still plays his, field stretcher role, but, more targets for Shaheed. A.T. Perry is probably not going to command a ton of targets. So Michael Thomas is out. Good news for Chris Olave. Good news for Rashid Shaheed. A.T. Perry, DFS kind of dart throw type guy maybe. But hard to trust a rookie like that going into that role. So after that, Juwan Johnson, 32 routes, only 16 for Taysom Hill. So as we expected, Taysom Hill is not going to run 40 routes like he was when Juwan was out, but he's still going to run some routes. He's going to get some carries. Again, it's out of his control to some degree, the Taysom Hill situation, because he is the red zone. He dominates in the red zone. They only have 2 plays of 2 touchdowns longer than 20 yards, unless I missed one this week. Maybe I did. And they were both Rashid Shaheed. So if they get into the red area, that's Taysom Hill time. But if they're not getting in there, then Taysom Hill doesn't really create for himself. He basically is just a bulldozer in that part of the field. So it is out of his control. And Jameis Winston, Derek Carr only targeted Chris Olave 1 time. They both played 33 snaps exactly. Derek Carr only targeted Chris Olave 1 time. Jameis Winston targeted him like 8 times. Jameis Winston is willing to take shots downfield. That's actually not good for Taysom Hill. You want the Derek Carr offense dink and dunking it down the field to Kamara and Olave and MT until you get to the red zone, and then they just Taysom Hill. Bah, 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 bah. Like, that's what you want. You don't want Jameis Winston throwing 50-yard touchdowns / interceptions, because there's no opportunity for red zone with that. So Jameis Winston is not a good thing for Taysom Hill in my humble opinion. But yeah, just keep an eye on Derek Carr. He just got crushed, shoulder concussion. They're calling it just, basically he just got smashed, and they said you got to come out of the game. And Skinny, yes, Taysom talk. Got to talk Taysom, dude. Can't ignore the guy. So again, you know what you're getting into with that player. If you were in on Taysom, you're in on Taysom. If you're out on Taysom, you're still out on Taysom. Alvin Kamara, 51 snaps of 67. Kendre Miller was out for this game. Jamal Williams only played 15 snaps, though. So I don't know why they paid Jamal Williams all that money to not really do anything with him. I think they just forgot that they had Taysom Hill, I guess, but I don't know. Jamal gets to hang out. 15 snaps for him, 51 for Kamara. So Kamara is still a guy you're going to start every week. Giants game, 57 snaps. Wasn't a real football game, so I really don't even want to talk about it, to be honest. Like, they rotated all the wide receivers because it was just a big mess. Jalen Hyatt did get hurt, so keep an eye on that. But Darius Slayton plays the full snaps. Wan'Dale Robinson is kind of a partial guy. When Hyatt left the game, I did notice that Isaiah Hodgins played like the entire 4th quarter. So Isaiah Hodgins probably gets the biggest boost if Hyatt is out. So that's what we're keeping an eye on. But yeah, I mean, like, as long as Tommy DeVito's the quarterback, who cares, right? Saquon Barkley, did the best he could in a bad situation. Jashawn Corbin, speaking of names that have never been said on the show, Jashawn Corbin got 15 snaps. So shout out to that guy. But I don't think he's particularly fantasy relevant unless something drastic and crazy happens here. And then with the tight ends, we were hoping Daniel Bellinger could step up and be like a Waller-ish guy, but he's not. He played 46 of 57 snaps, but only ran 24 of 37 routes. Waller, in a game where they dropped back 37 times, Waller would have run 35 routes, 30 minimum, not 24. That's not the usage. That's not the same player. And they did use Tyree Jackson, which is a converted quarterback that was kind of floating around with the Eagles, if I remember. He popped in a little bit, but didn't really do anything. Lawrence Cager, Tyree Jackson, just too much mixing, matching. There's no tight end there now. No, not since Waller's been out. So, Jets, 66 snaps. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, you're starting. Jets defense, maybe you're starting. And that's kind of it. And something just popped up on my screen, Bernard, that like I can't see the chat anymore. So if people are saying stuff in the chat, can you just put it up there or turn on the chat overlay? I don't know what's going on. I've never seen this before. Shout out chat. What's up, guys? I can't wait to see what you're saying. I don't know. But yeah, put that up there if people have, get that going. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, just put them up on the screen. Just put them right up there. Whatever anyone says. Here's your chance to say some weird stuff and get it on the screen, guys. It's all going to go up there. Or use your judgment, Bernard. But yeah, so Tyler Conklin, I say Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and Jets defense. And people are like, oh, Coop, what about Tyler Conklin? 6 and 7 targets last week. He only ran 30 of 46 routes. Dropping back 46 times is a lot, and only running 30 of those routes is just not good enough for me. So I'm just never going to start Tyler Conklin. You can in your leagues. Go ahead, but you're doing it against my judgment. I say don't do it. You can if you want. But yeah, he just doesn't play the whole game. Uzoma mixes in. Jeremy Ruckert mixes in. Not great. Somebody asked about Breece Hall earlier. Breece, 26 routes, 13 carries, 46 snaps. No one played more than 10. So Breece Hall is locked in. That's where we're at here. Rest of the season, Evan Engram or Trey McBride, Jay Lamb wants to know. To be honest, I'm going to rank Evan Engram ahead because of how consistent he's been and the targets and the routes run and everything. And, and the way it's been for him, he's ranked ahead. He's much safer. Trey McBride's still very exciting. So if you're a high risk, high reward player, go for Trey McBride. The other thing is when Zay Jones comes back, I could flip that because Zay Jones is really eating into what's going on for Engram and the rest of these guys. We might flip it. So right now it's Engram ahead, but there's a possibility that Trey McBride is just a megastar with Kyler Murray and he goes ahead. So you got to make that judgment call yourself. But the upside play is McBride. The safe play is Engram. The thing is McBride still has a bye week coming up. Engram's already had his. So if you have Engram, if you have Trey McBride, you actually still need another guy. And yeah, of course, Ertz is a concern, and Dawson Knox is a concern for Dalton Kincaid. But the way these guys are played, I don't think you can put them back in the bottle. I think the way those guys will pick up snaps elsewhere, I don't think you take McBride and Kincaid off the field anymore for these guys, right? AB tells me 6 teams left, 10 minutes to go. We got this, man. We're on pace today. I'm feeling good about it. So shout out Britt and her show. We're going to keep this in an hour just for her. But yeah, so again, that's what part of the risk, I think, for McBride versus Engram, where Engram, you know what you're going to get. You know what I mean? He doesn't really score a lot of touchdowns, but he, in any sort of full PPR, he's leading the league in tight end screen passes. And those designed plays where the catches are virtually automatic gives him such a good floor. So in full PPR, if you were looking for floor, it's Engram. If you're just looking for the best possible upside, it's McBride, but just know, again, not as safe. Ertz coming back. Pittsburgh Steelers, 64 snaps. There's been some drama going on. Pickens changed his profile or whatever, and then they didn't announce him with the starters. But guess what? He did start. And in fact, he led the team in snaps. He played 62 of 65 snaps. So I don't care that they didn't announce his name. He played the entire game. Did he play well? Whatever. Deontay Johnson, the guy that we usually trust and we will continue to trust, did not have a good game either. The quarterback's the problem. what are you going to do, man? But Deontay Johnson, you just can't leave him out of your lineup because of the targets that he typically gets, man. So, got to get him in there. Got to get DJ in there. Don't necessarily have to start Pickens. Definitely don't have to start Allen Robinson. And Calvin Austin went back to the bench when when Deontay Johnson came back. So can't obviously trust him. Connor Hayward, his usage was good for a couple weeks. He was basically being used like Pat Freiermuth. Now he's not. So only ran 18 to 26 routes. So he also goes out the window for me. I don't care that he, everyone on the team got 4 targets. So he got 4 targets. Like, doesn't matter to me. Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, 33 snaps each, even split. Carries 15, 16, fairly even. Targets 4 and 4. Like, it's just an even split now. So, start them where you got to. It's not like this isn't like the Lions where this team is just incredible and both running backs can be awesome. It's probably going to be the way it's been, where it's like one guy's a good week, the other guy's a good week. They just, I'd rather not start either, to be honest with you, but they're both viable now, considering that they split. San Francisco 49ers, 62 snaps. George Kittle, probably the most George Kittle game that he's had since the Cowboys game. Cowboys game, he catches 3 passes. All 3 are touchdowns. This week, he catches 3 passes for 116 yards and a touchdown. In the games when Debo and Ayuk and CMC are all healthy, he has not had more than 3 receptions in a game yet. So I am selling high on George Kittle. But George Kittle is the one player in the league that, because he runs a 4.52 and because he breaks all these tackles and because the play design is so good that at any given time he can have a 60-yard touchdown. Very few. He's like the only tight end in the league that has multiple touchdowns over 60 yards. He's the only tight end in the league that has multiple touchdowns over 70 yards. He's the only tight end in the league that has an 80-yard touchdown. This is in their career. Like George Kittle, he just rips off chunk plays at a higher rate than everyone else. He has the most, since he's been in the league, no one's had more 40-plus yard plays than him. Him and Travis Kelce are also like here, and then there's a huge gap, and then there's everybody else. But Kittle's ahead of Kelce in that stat. Like, that's the one thing Kittle does that keeps him relevant despite the target. So I'm selling, but, he's still a decent DFS option because he can do what he did this week. And the other good thing about this is because of Kyle Juszczyk, and they use the fullback, Ayuk, Debo, CMC, Kittle, very highly consolidated among who gets to touch the football, so you can start all those guys. You can start them all. You can start Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy looked pretty good. Seattle Seahawks, 80 snaps. So that's the one where we sit and we say, okay, the statistics for this week are going to be skewed to some degree because they played 15 more snaps than teams typically do on average. So you got to keep that in mind. DK Metcalf gets 11 targets. Tyler Lockett gets 10 targets. They ran more football plays than most teams by a lot. In some cases by 30. So you can't just sit here and say, well, that's it. 10 targets a week, both these players, it's going to be fine. And JSN can also get 5. Like, that's just it's not normal game script. So Metcalf and Lockett played the whole game. JSN was the third fiddle. When they play from behind like they did last week, they used 11 personnel like the whole time they're playing catch up, and JSN can run as many routes as everyone else. This time, it wasn't the game script. So Metcalf, they played from behind for some of it, but, Metcalf, 46 routes, Lockett, 41, only 33 for Njigba, right? So that's the deal there. Charbonnet did, once again, because of all the throwing, they dropped back to throw 49 times. Because of that, Charbonnet played more snaps than Kenneth Walker. And somebody earlier asked if Kenneth Walker was a sell. Yes, I'm trying to sell Kenneth Walker. I'm trying to sell Derrick Henry. I'm trying to sell Brian Robinson. Anybody that's in these like splits where the game script determines who gets the ball and who doesn't, I don't want those guys, because down the stretch in fantasy playoffs, I got to put together 3 games in a row. Bing, bang, boom. I can't have a guy come out and play well one week and then bad game script the next week, because there might not be another week after that. I want guys that are consistent. I would trade those guys. I mean, trade Kenneth Walker and Derrick Henry and Brian Robinson, package them up, try and get somebody that plays every single week. And it doesn't have to be a megastar. Like, you don't have to trade for McCaffrey. Trade for like Joe Mixon, where Joe Mixon doesn't really have quote unquote bad games because he plays the entire game no matter what, right? So that's kind of the way I would go with that. And you don't worry about the tight ends on the Seahawks. Next team, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 65 snaps, right average, very nice. Trey Palmer, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, played virtually the whole game. Mike Evans was awesome. Palmer actually led in snaps. They committed to 3 wide receiver sets this week, which was good. Palmer's a guy that needs to be rostered in dynasty leagues across the board. If anything were to happen to Godwin or Evans, now we're talking about starting him in redraft leagues. So your eyes have to be on Trey Palmer. Plays a lot. Keaton also plays a lot, but again, this is a bad matchup. The Titans are good versus the tight end. I know they traded Kevin Byard, but they held Otten in check. If they hold Evan Engram in check next week, you got to look at Dalton Schultz and worry, because Dalton Schultz, his playoff schedule goes Titans, Browns, who are the number 1 team in the league versus the tight end and just did well against Mark Andrews, and then they play the Titans again. So you have that roster, and if you have Dalton Schultz, you should start going to find another tight end, not to start right away. I mean, you could even start him versus the Titans in that first week, right? But if he does bad against the Titans in that first week and you survive, or maybe you have a bye week, then you're not going to start him versus the Browns, and you're not going to start him versus the Titans. So you got to have somebody else, all right? Dalton Schultz, we're on red alert with that guy. You want to see, if you're rooting for Schultz, you want to see Evan Engram carve up the Titans this week so that you can justify yourself, okay, maybe the Titans aren't that good versus tight end, and we're going to be all right for 2 out of 3 of these games. But be very careful with that. Rachaad White played virtually the whole game again. Gotta love that. Gotta love the usage for him. The targets are, he's getting some every week, so that's good. Chase Edmonds played. He's the second back now. He played ahead of Keyshawn Vaughn and Sean Tucker, so he's probably the next man up. In my opinion, Chase Edmonds is now. So yeah, Cade Otton is back on the menu after this week. He just, bad matchup, bad game. Tennessee Titans, 63 snaps. No Treylon Burks. So we were looking at Nick Westbrook-Akine. We were looking at Kyle Phillips. Guess what? Chris Moore. Chris Moore played 52 snaps. Akine played 39. Phillips played 22. So Phillips and Westbrook-Akine you weren't starting those guys anyway. DeAndre Hopkins is probably the only guy that you're going to start. So there you go. Chris Moore and those other guys, DFS only. Chigakonkwo got 6 targets, right? He just hasn't quite hit on the big play. We've talked about this all week last week, so I don't want to go too deep into it, but hasn't quite hit on the big play when he's had opportunities. And the concerning thing here is that he played 34 or 63 snaps. Josh Wiley came out, the rookie from Cincinnati, I believe, played 27 of 63 snaps. Chig ran 23 routes. Wiley ran 16. So, yeah, there you go. And that's out of 43. So Chig, I don't know what it was. I got to check and see if he had an injury or something. But yeah, they mixed in the rookie. Not happy with what they're getting from Chig. And again, Derrick Henry, we talked about this briefly before, but game script wise, when they're playing from behind, Tajay Spears plays more. 38 snaps for Spears, 27 for Henry. Be careful with that. Last team, last minute, getting out in an hour. Look at us go. Washington Commanders, 61 snaps. Dotson played the whole game, didn't catch any balls. Dotson, impossible to trust. Terry McLaurin, we trust. Curtis Samuel, he only played 31 snaps coming back from the injury. He was kind of a part-time guy anyway. You're really banking on him to get carries. Logan Thomas, 41 routes run of 47, got a few targets. Logan Thomas, still a guy we like. He's in that safe tier, back end, tight end 1 type range where if you got nobody else, go for it. And then, of course, Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson. This week they split kind of right down the middle. 31 snaps for Robinson, 29 for Gibson, 20 routes for Robinson, 23 for Gibson. Carries were kind of split, targets were kind of split. So, again, I don't like guys like that where it's like I have to try and predict what's going to happen, because here's the problem. If we could predict all the games, who's going to win, who's going to lose, then we would just be on an island somewhere with an umbrella in our drinks because of all the bets we would win, Trying to predict first, you need to predict how the game's going to go. Then you have to predict if the person's even going to have a good game. Even, they could be winning and Brian Robinson might not have a good game. It's just too many variables for guys like that. So I'm looking to trade them. But hey, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. Starting next week, right after my show, Brits Blitz is going to be back, baby, Mondays. Thanks for Adam Bernard, producer. Thanks for everybody in the chat. Go use promo code Coop over at my FFPC to support the show. They'll give you 25 and you deposit 35 or more. But that's it for us, man. We'll catch you guys all week right here from 1 to 3, where we're just going to be talking about football, baby.